Welcome to my podcast, Chat with Loki. It's about sharing stories of grit, resilience, wisdom from unseen, unheard, everyday heroes of life. Hi, Amal. Welcome to Chat with Loki. How are you?
I'm all right, thanks. Thanks for having me.
Before we start chatting, can you please introduce to the audience who you are and whatever way you want to introduce?
Okay. My name is Amal and Loki. I am the daughter of Palestinian migrants.
Okay.
I grew up in Sydney. I'm the author of 8 books. I am an aspiring filmmaker. I would call myself aspiring. I don't think I'm at the point yet where I just feel comfortable saying I'm a filmmaker.
Yeah.
I have a law degree. My parents like me to point that out.
Okay.
Just, helps to soften the blow of me becoming a creative.
Yeah.
I'm a daughter, I'm a wife, I'm many things, but when people ask you what you are, I always say I'm a writer, director.
Yeah.
That's kind of who I am, and a bit of acting here and there.
Okay, that's great. 8 books.
8 books.
What's the theme?
I don't recommend it, by the way.
Okay.
Don't become an author.
You already did.
Well, I have 4 fiction, 4 non-fiction books. So the non-fiction books have different themes. I would say one of them is, one of them is about Arab women because I'm, Palestinian.
Yeah.
And I wanted to sort of demystify our lives because there were so many books that I was seeing coming out about Arab women. A lot of women from the West, they'd go to the desert, they'd put on the veil and all these things, and I want to understand Arab women. And I thought, well, if they want to understand Arab women, let's help them. And I don't think people care so much about hearing from us. They want the Western perspective of our lives.
Yeah.
But that book is called Beyond Veiled Cliches. And the next book I did was Fridays with My Folks, and that's about aging.
Yeah.
Because my father got diagnosed with renal failure.
Okay.
And it kind of turns everyone's lives upside down with when a parent gets sick.
Yes.
And Dad's condition was so sort of like life-changing that it affected all of us. And so I thought, well, there's a story here because so many of us aren't thinking about the years that when we're going to get older and the care that we're going to need and who's looking after us, and we need to talk about it. And so I interviewed like a lot of geriatricians and, just everyday carers as well, sort of like what you do with this podcast, I think, Everyday Heroes. So I should point out I actually have a journalism background. So when I deserted the law, it was to do media.
Deserted law.
Yeah, I deserted the law pretty quickly. I mean, I graduated. I practiced for about 7 months and then I just tapped out. I said, this isn't for me. But I was a journalist,
Okay, before we go into your books, so 4 fiction, 4 non-fiction.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so before we go into, some of the things you mentioned, so where exactly were you born?
I was born in Sydney.
And tell me a little bit about your family, mother, father, any siblings.
Well, so I'm an 80s kid.
Okay.
I grew up in Sydney in the 80s, essentially.
Okay. Yeah.
Born in the 70s, I will say.
Yeah.
And we were kind of migrants before people understood really, I think, what migrants were here, if that makes sense. So, I feel like the way I was raised, it was difficult because my parents were very conservative. Okay. So it's not even about being religious. I think they were culturally strict, very culturally conscious, I would call it. And so, the term is third culture kid.
Yeah,
so, when you're between 2 worlds.
Yes.
So I knew from a very young age that you're kind of here but not of this place, which is, we all know now as well, like this is stolen land. We're not of this place in that way. Yeah. So it's a different kind of shift in consciousness, I think, now. But when I was growing up, it was this sense of, I don't want to sound cliched and say like I was an outsider, but I knew that I wasn't like the other kids. I knew that my parents were going to be strict about certain things that to other people was just not a big deal.
Yeah, and also it's different times there. And any siblings?
I have 4 brothers.
4 brothers.
Yeah, no
and
sisters.
You are in
I'm
the
number
middle?
4. So like I have one younger brother, 3
Okay.
older brothers. Yeah.
So 3, okay. So how is it growing up with 4 brothers?
It was well. So my younger brother came along much later.
Yeah.
Look, it was okay. Like especially my oldest brother, I think, was always sort of he was the protector of all of us. He took care of us. You know, he's still my rock in a lot of ways and that sort of thing. But I think it was very hard because like it's just back then it really was like you can't do this, you can't do that, and especially when you're a girl. And I'm not shy about that. Like my mother as well, when I tell her I want to talk about the way you raised me, she says, good, tell people. I have no regrets. Because she doesn't regret keeping me safe in her mind. It was about protecting us and teaching us the right way and being good kids and all of that. So I think in a lot of ways we had a very normal childhood, but my father was very enterprising. So he was one of those migrants who came to Australia with nothing, you know, literally nothing. And he opened up like video rental stores before Blockbuster, before Video Easy, all those ones came along. He was one of the first to do that. And so he hired out Arabic movies and also Western ones eventually when he realized that's where the business was.
Yeah.
So we grew up with videos on tap. So I just fell in love with movies from a really young age. But ironically, it's quite funny because my father also didn't want us to like go to the cinema and do all these things because he was so like conscious of how dangerous the West was. And so it was this weird thing where he planted the seed in me in that way. So I grew up, I think, in a lot of ways with brothers who were very like fun to be around.
Yeah.
And I think we had a very normal childhood in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
But I think where it started to feel harder was as I got older, as a female especially, I felt the protective bubble tighten. You know, I felt like my parents got stricter with me. And I don't think
what age do you think that shift happened?
Look, they were always strict. They were always strict with me. So like even from like kindergarten, I didn't really go to mixed birthday parties and things like that.
Yeah.
But I think once you hit puberty, once you hit your teenage years especially, just the fears rise. You know, they don't want you to go out late. They don't want, you know. So it wasn't like, I don't want to paint this picture of oppression. It wasn't that. It was just strict. They were strict parents. It was like, you know, very, I would not term them easygoing.
Okay.
The way some parents around me were, very different.
And if you can think of a beautiful moment with your mother and father before you turned teenager, what would you think of? Like really joyful as a kid? With
my mum especially, I actually talked about this in one of my books where because my father used to work all the time and so he would work at night even.
Yeah.
And my mum would be like doing things around the house. She'd be sewing, she'd be doing whatever. And I remember once my brothers were watching a really like terrifying movie, scary movie, and I was with them and I just couldn't get over it. I was terrified and I was a little kid. Yeah. So my mum just put me on the couch and she was like watching Arabic movies and doing crochet and I was just like, I felt safe. It was like this is my bubble. This is my safety bubble. That was one memory that I really hold dear.
Yeah.
And I think another one, it's very funny because my parents, because we're Palestinian, back in the day there was like a lot of like fundraisers and, you know, you go to like the Palestinian clubs, they would hold these big functions to raise money and send it back for families and things like that, you know. My whole life is Palestine, you know what I mean? You grow up with that. And I remember, I think my parents went to one and the next day my dad had won, like at an auction, a stereo.
Yeah.
So this is like the cassette days.
Yes.
I'm showing my age really. And he gave it to me. He said, I got you something. And it was this really strange moment where my dad was so strict about things like music and movies, but at the same time he gave me this stereo. And I was like, it's such a weird memory. But when you said that, that's the first thing I thought of. Because the way he said it, he said, I've got a surprise for you. You know, what do you think it is? And I could see it. It was right there. Like I was just like this bratty kid. I was like, it's a stereo. So yeah, that was probably what I remember. Before, like if you're talking before teenage years, that's what I would say.
So what does music and movies mean to you, being around them?
Yeah, look, I think that it's shifting over time. I think that a lot of things have changed for me over the recent years for different reasons. But for me, any of these sort of creative, like sort of portals, they're opportunities for us to escape into something, but not purely to escape and come back to reality. We're meant to come back transformed, in my opinion. So sometimes even like the dumbest comedies can lift you out of despair. They can lift you out of feeling depressed. But I think that the point of those experiences is, why was I feeling that way and how am I going to feel at the end of this? And I don't mean every movie has to be a transformative experience where you suddenly have all these like revelations, but I don't know, I'm a very sort of inner world person, I think. And so for me, if something isn't creating some sort of reaction in me or some sort of connectivity there, it's probably not something I care about.
Okay.
I just think that we're here to grow and experience and connect and all of these things. And I think probably entertainment has become more important for me in that way, in that I want quality entertainment now. I probably seek that out more. Whereas I think when I was younger, maybe you don't care, like you are happy to watch the dumb movies and the silly movies and just laugh because it just felt like innocent or something. And now I feel like there's so much sadness and grief that I'm experiencing and watching horrible things happening in the world, especially to my people, that I think that it doesn't mean these things aren't important. They're more important than ever.
Okay.
And it's our duty as entertainers, whether we're actors, writers, directors, and as viewers, is to make these things count in some way.
Yep.
Because like how many experiences you're going to go through in life, they are relatable.
Yeah.
You know, I think genocide is an extreme, but there's still the value of family, the value of your kin and your own body and your freedom and all of these things, these matter to everyone.
Of course, yeah.
So, like how do we make sure that entertainment still has that value?
Yeah.
Because we shouldn't, I don't think it serves us to either like also just to be miserable all the time. Like that's not helping anybody. But if you really can't feel good, how can we use these art forms to help people feel better?
So back to that family thing you were talking about. So your four siblings, brothers, and they're all still here in Sydney, or
no, we're all,
and your parents as well.
But in recent years, and I've wrote about this in Fridays with my folks, like my dad's needs obviously have increased over the years because of his situation, and so it's transformed, I guess, or changed how we show up for our family and how we show up for our parents.
Yeah.
But that's the best way I can put it. But we're all here. We're just, I mean, my family comes from the West Bank.
Okay.
And I have family in Jordan, and I've been back many times.
Yeah.
But I don't live there, and I couldn't live there if I wanted to because I wouldn't be allowed to.
We'll come to that a bit later. And your own kids, any, no?
What's the term? Child-free?
Child-free.
Child-free, I'm child-free. I don't have children. And I thought I would. I really thought that I was going to follow this very straight path.
Yeah.
And if you'd known me at 18, 20 years old, I thought that was going to be my trajectory. I just I'll get married, I'll have kids, I'll have a safe job, all these things. And I don't know, nothing has worked out that way at all. I did nothing that I thought I would do and the way I would do it. It's completely different.
Okay. So then you completed your primary, secondary education, and then you went into law straight away?
When I finished high school, I got the marks and my father really encouraged me to do law. He really wanted me to do something, I guess, that had real value and was a really solid career.
Yeah.
I wanted to be a journalist. And especially back then, so this is the 90s, communications was like a brand new thing. It was not something that when people said communications, they would say, what? What is that? And I sort of caved and I said, okay, I'll do law because it did sort of feel like the safer option.
Yeah.
And then a few years later, they introduced communications law. So that was a bummer. I could have done that, but I didn't have it at the time available.
Yeah.
But I'm a big believer that, especially based on my experiences, that whatever is meant for you, it's kind of inevitable. Eventually it's going to chase you or you chase it, because I'll never forget this. I had a high school teacher who, so at the end of the year, we had like a big dinner for year 12. And I think it was called the valedictory dinner. And the teacher who sat, like, so the teachers would pick a table to sit at, and my history teacher sat at my table with me and 2 other friends and our parents. And she said, "What do you want to do?" And I said, "Well, I think I'm going to study law." And she looked at me, she said, "You know, it's funny, I have a student who she went and did a degree that she didn't really want to do, and now she's a journalist." And I remember just thinking there's something in that for me. I don't know why.
Yeah.
And then sure enough, in my late 20s, I became a journalist. So I didn't think that would happen, but it was just slowly inching my way towards that. I went from being a lawyer to editing legal journals and publications, and then I got into sub-editing for media, and then from sub-editing to media I would do like occasional features, and my strength is feature writing, profile writing. I can write news, I don't love it. I prefer writing features. It's the deep dive, you know, you get to know someone, you interview them, or you can offer different perspectives and argue a point.
Yeah.
News has to be very factual. A lot of the time it isn't. It's still
it
angled
isn't.
a certain way, but essentially news is designed to inform people simply and purely, this is what happened at this time in this place and wherever. Features are designed to get you thinking and, you know, arguing a point. You can still have an angle, but it gives you a little bit more freedom in terms of the deep dive. So, yeah, that's where I started.
So how was the transition from law to journalism?
Yeah, it was gradual. It was like,
Gradual,
like, so I went from, at the time when I got into legal editing, you had to have a law degree. So this particular place I went to, part of it was you have to have this legal background. We won't take people just for the editing skills. They have to have this legal knowledge or mindset. So I got into that, and the company I was working at had a lot of different magazines and things. So I would say it was like a couple of years before I finally branched out and said, I'd like to be a sub-editor on a magazine. It was like 3 magazines.
Okay.
Very not unsexy, like, so what we call trade publishing.
Okay.
So trade publishing is when you have like a very industry-specific publication. So property, finance, retail, pharmacy. You know, it's not like sexy, like, but headliner stuff.
It's needed, but not sexy. Yeah.
It's actually one of the best, sorry, one second. It's actually one of the best training grounds, because you have to become very, very diligent, and you have to be almost like you can't skip over anything, because your audience knows more than you.
Wow. Okay.
So when I got into sub-editing, I had to be literate to an extent, because I can't sub-edit and say this is wrong if I don't really, it's harder to spot certain things. So sub-editing is 2 things. It's like there's the very cosmetic spelling error, grammar error, this looks wrong, or you spelt this wrong. And then there's like headlines, things like that. Yeah. And then there's the actual, this doesn't make sense. And that's a lot harder if you don't have any literacy in the subject matter. So one of the magazines was for law. That was okay. But there was also like risk management. And what was the other one? Human resources. Okay. Like, they weren't exciting. But to me, this was a whole new world. It was like, wow, you know, and then the print magazine would come in and everybody would open it up and smell it because it smelled nice. And this is really silly, but this is really what happens. No, it's, in a magazine office, that's what would happen. You'd be like, oh, print.
At that time, it made sense, because that's the new thing, or that's something, you know.
It will come back, actually. I'm sure of it. I'm sure magazines will come back, because they're tactile. Yeah. They have, it's an experience reading a magazine. You know, but we just don't have the patience that we had before. Like, we now have so many things to distract us. Yeah. But, you know, long story short, when you go from that, like, I was lucky to have an editor one of them who said, hey, start writing for me here and there, just start. So the editors would let me occasionally contribute. And then eventually, I honestly think that I leapfrogged into journalism. I went from being sort of occasional freelance feature writer to being a features editor. And that is just, that doesn't happen. You have to do so many things. And I had to learn so fast. I had no room for error. I had no opportunity to, like, nobody was holding my hand. and taking me through the process. I had to adapt very quickly. And you just become very sort of, you become adaptable. And, from there you take that skill set and then, you become a features editor in finance. Then you become a deputy editor in property or a deputy editor in pharmacy, and you take the same skill set, but you have to learn really quickly. Yeah. Like, this is the different world. This is the language of this world. These are the concerns of this world. And so it makes you very diligent. You have to be like turning everything up and checking underneath every pot plant. You know what I mean? You can't phone it in with trade journalism, especially because your audience will tell you straight away. You don't know what you're talking about.
But did you enjoy that process, the journalism?
I loved it.
Yeah.
I think I was good at it. I think I saw like a very steady progression in my career, if that makes sense. So I went from being someone who was very, and I want to be clear, I don't think I was ever cocky or overly confident. In fact, it was quite the opposite. I think I was always like hard on myself because I wanted to be good at it and I wanted to be honest about my credentials. So I worked very hard, I guess is the best way to put it. Yeah. By the time I got to like a higher role, it was like my boss above me was like, you need to have more confidence in yourself. Yeah. Don't ask me so many questions. I hired you because I know you can do this job. Yeah. And I was really grateful for that because I did. After that, I just sucked it up and I went, wait, you know what you're doing. It's okay.
So how long you continued this journalism focused?
I would say technically I guess I still am a journalist. I just don't do much of it. But it was over 10 to 15 years, I think, was probably a really steady career of like freelance work. And I did eventually write more for mainstream as well. So it wasn't just trade. When I eventually started writing for mainstream media, that was a whole other world, and it's very different because the audience is so big. Yes, and mean. And you just, it's a different kind of critical eye that's on your work.
So if you need to pick some of the articles or the topics where you felt you have really made an impact and also felt really good within you in the 10-year, let's take that as 10-year. Is there something comes up, one or two?
I really loved some of the, in my mainstream career more. Yeah. I loved that I got to interview some interesting creatives along the way, and I did things like a lot of film criticism and all of that. One of the things that I've written that I'm most proud of is actually an essay. So I don't know if you know Mills and Boon books, the romance ones. Yes. So there's a whole subgenre of what I call 𝗙𝗵𝘁𝗄, which is basically that Arabian sheikh, from that kind of United Arab Emirates kind of vibe. Yes. There's a whole subgenre of that. Okay. I didn't know this. And then one day I was in the, 𝗙𝗵𝘁𝗄𝗏 or Kmart or something. And it was all I don't know, ridiculous things like veiled this and bosom that, I don't know. But anyway, okay, maybe not bosom, but you know what I mean, desert sands and veiled and the sheikh in the kingdoms and this nonsense. And I was so curious and I thought, okay, this is really interesting. And the interesting thing to me was they were all written by white women. They weren't written by Arabs ever, of course. Okay, and they were all essentially the same story, which was the white woman doesn't know how to have sex, but he does. He helps her with that, but then she helps him become the man he wants to be. And, he's good in spite of the fact that he's Arab. You know what I mean? It's that kind of vibe. He's one of the good ones. So it's kind of like saving him from his cultural inheritance or his legacy or something like that. And not legacy, his cultural inheritance is basically this Arab strict kingdom, responsibilities and all this stuff. And maybe he's Muslim, that's just depends on the storyteller that day. But I wrote this essay deconstructing these stories and essentially making fun of them because they were very funny. The names and the situations, and literally the main characters' names were Charlotte, Miranda, Samantha. All of the Sex and the City girls' names were in there. I didn't notice this until later. And it was just really funny. It was it was really funny because they would always be forced into marriage with the guy.
Okay.
And he would be like,
So where they're based?
so basically then he would like whisk her off to the oasis in the desert where they would,
the desert.
Where he would like, and it was just, she'd be very shy and I don't know what I'm doing and I hate you, but okay. And all these sort of weird, I don't know. Look, it was a phase. I had to figure it out. But more importantly, I read it because I wanted to understand what they were saying. And there was, even in the trashiest of novels, there's always a point.
Yes.
And the point was, Arab men are sexy, but they have to be like on board with being Western. They have to be really the ones who want to be Western. They're Arab because they are, not because they enjoy being Arab or want to be Arab in a way.
Yeah.
That was the overarching theme, I think, if I'm being honest. And it was really telling to me because I'm so used to people commenting on the state of Arab women. I had never thought about how do the West see Arab men and what do they want to do with them.
Yeah.
And they want to Westernize them.
Okay.
They want them to be Westerners, but good-looking Arab men who are Westerners, very wealthy.
Yeah.
So it's this romanticism, but also an objectification, really. But at the same time, this general criticism of the Islamic world and the Arab world.
Okay.
Which is that it's fine. We want to import what we want from there into our lives, but we're better than you. Yeah. That was very, very strong in all of those stories.
So that's how long this went for, like understanding and so did you like publish this or
it got published in a journal called '𝗵𝘁𝗵 and I got published in '𝗵𝘁𝗵, which is like, it's a very well respected journal which I think is shutting down now. So I wish it had a wider audience, but I had people reach out to me and say this is going into my like university paper and all these sorts of things, because there's still a point, like even when I'm making fun of something, when I satirize, because my beginning in mainstream media was satire. I used to make fun of things. I love humor. I think humor is an amazing vehicle for like making sense of the world, but it's not even an intellectual thing. I enjoy it. I enjoy writing funny.
You're being yourself.
Yeah, exactly. And so I also wrote about the ridiculous, like whole, like what I call the veiled lit, the woman on the cover with the veil on her face and only her eyes are visible. And that was huge in the 90s.
Yes, it is.
And it's still around. Like it hasn't gone.
Yeah.
And I made fun of that too. And I gave people tips on how you could put together the best titles for your books. Just add veiled plus this, plus that, that sort of thing. So my way of dealing with a lot of this stuff in the past has been humor. But I don't feel like that as much now because of what I'm seeing happen.
So this, and also you said you did interview or came across many, other creatives. Any individual you think of where they impacted for you to get or have a different perspective?
No, I just remember I interviewed... there's a comedian in the US, his name is 𝗪 and I think he's Persian. Okay. So he was coming to Sydney and he's very funny.
Yeah.
And I remember interviewing him and he was great, but I remember we were talking about the term person of colour.
Okay.
And he was really surprised when I said anybody who is not white here, we kind of call ourselves, not anyone, but, non-European, non-white, like you're a person of colour. And he said that's really interesting. In America, that's a black person. You don't use that colour, that you wouldn't use that term for an Arab.
Right.
And I don't know why it stands out in my mind of these little intricacies, these nuances, and I really appreciated the conversation because it was interesting to get his perspective. Look, I have a funny story as well where this wasn't a favourite because it was a good interview. It was just a funny story because when I was at the Property magazine, they were doing a big conference and they were bringing Rudy Giuliani to Australia. And so this was before Trump. This was before all of that. It was when he was mayor of New York. So he was no longer mayor, but he had that legacy. Yes. So he was trotting around the world doing all these talks, and so I had to interview him. Oh. And so and like again, my manager at the time was like, I don't want to do this. No, you're doing it. All right, cool. And it was like the way that it was so precise about like you had to speak to this person first who was like, he'll be on in 5 minutes. And then you were waiting. And then, so he had like a whole team working for him.
Okay.
And he was very, very charming and polite and all these things. And it was a very clear, like, it was a very safe interview because he was coming for our conference. I wasn't going to push him on anything too harsh. But, you know, because he did a lot for New York at the time. He really did revitalize it. It had a high crime rate. It had a lot of issues. And he kind of brought life back to New York City, you could argue. I mean, I'm not a New Yorker, so I don't know how they feel about him. But unfortunately, he then went on that downhill slide with Trump. But I forget sometimes. I'm like, oh, yeah, I interviewed that guy. So he's probably the most famous person I've interviewed.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't remember a lot of other ones now. I think it just feels like such a different life. Feels like so long ago. But there was a really nice time where I was in the mainstream writing a lot for SBS. I was writing a lot for like Sydney Morning Herald.
Yeah.
A lot of opinion pieces, things like that. And I just felt like a new lease on writing. It was this new way of engaging with the world. And the biggest challenge for me was that it still felt like they wanted the Arab perspective only. They only wanted your stories if it was sort of you were informing on your community or your experiences. Or, okay, here I'll write about not drinking alcohol. I'll write about what it was like to date, you know, when you come from a conservative Muslim family, that kind of thing. And it was very hard for people to trust you as a sort of it's like they didn't trust my voice on more general stuff. Like they were never going to just... So I remember one time when I was writing... So at the time, Sydney Morning Herald had... they had a section called Daily Life.
Yes.
And it just went off. And so I would write for them a lot.
Okay.
And I once pitched to them at the time. So this would have been, like 2011, 12, 13, around that time.
Okay, yeah.
And I said, I want to write about feminism and coming from a Muslim family and all this sort of stuff. So I wrote something which was quite critical of white feminism and said that there's a lot of like condescension towards anyone who's not white when it comes to feminism. There's a lot of like condescension about anything that doesn't adhere to their idea of sort of freedom.
Okay.
And it wasn't like a takedown. It was like, can we be a bit more nuanced about what feminism is, and how can we be a bit more respectful about the fact that for some people your idea of freedom isn't the same as another person's? And because I saw the racism all the time. Like I was working in retail for years, and back when I was studying, and if a Muslim woman came in wearing a headscarf, I'd hear these comments. Yeah. And I also wore a headscarf. I wore it for nearly 10 years. So I know what it's like to be on the end of those things.
Yeah.
So I came from like a lot of experience, and they offered me a kill fee. They said, we're not going to run it. Thank you, but no. And it was really awkward because I was a regular contributor. I didn't get any explanation, but they wouldn't run it at the time. And now the conversation has advanced. Now you have a lot of people talking about that sort of thing. Yeah. But at the time when I wanted to talk about it, they weren't interested. So it was a really hard journey because it was kind of like, I'm not going to say I was given crumbs, but I didn't have a lot of ability to say, do you trust me as a voice? Do you trust me as someone who has women's interests at heart? Or is it simply that you want me to tick a diversity box? Because I know I can write. I don't need their validation. Yeah. But I needed sort of their permission almost to be more than that. Yeah. And it just didn't come.
Yeah. So, you would have experienced a lot of things in this situation where you have an opinion, or you want to give awareness, or let's say give a different perspective, and then suddenly you couldn't really get it across the line.
They're just not interested in the nuance. They don't want and I speak generally.
There would have been extra steps for them to take to get the piece out.
Well, I think that, and I'm speaking very generally. Yeah. I think especially in the West, a lot of audiences want to exactly be that. They want to show that they're aware of something. They want to show that they're tolerant of it, accepting. Yeah. But they don't really want to change much. Okay. So when I write a book about Arab women, and I call it going like beyond veiled cliches, in other words, let's move beyond the veil and the cliche of the veil. Yeah. Literally every interview I did was tell us about the veil. Like it was just, why do women wear it? And I saw a woman wearing it and I was really confronted. And it's like that confronts you. Like it's this weird thing where there's a whole book packed with these amazing Arab women telling you how they're changing lives, how they're trying to advance things for their women in their country and all these things. They are capable. They are fully capable of creating these changes. And yet it's like if there's no one saving Arab women, it's not that it's like just not really interesting to them. So I still feel, and I feel this even more strongly now with Palestine, that we have a lot of gatekeepers.
Yeah.
I don't feel like I think Palestine is on the radar. I think it's popular now, and I think that for the most tragic of reasons, people are more willing to give space to Palestinians, but they're still gatekeeping that space. They're still choosing how and when.
What do you mean by gatekeeping?
Well, they'll decide how and when. And what the nature of that is, you know. We're still not trusted, in my opinion, as genuine artists. Like we are.
Okay.
I'm speaking very generally, but it's
Of
almost
course.
like sometimes I've picked up in some industries like this sense of we're letting you in. It's like, but why? Like everybody starts out green. Nobody comes in an expert. Nobody comes in ready to go. It's very rare that you'd have someone who's just a genius out the gate at something.
Yeah.
But I feel like, especially as an Arab woman, when I wasn't immediately great, it was like, oh, well, we have to let you in or something. And it just means I have to work 10 times harder.
Yeah, it's a majority of the time it's the migrant mindset as well. Need to work more, need to, let's say, be more vigilant and all those things. I think it also comes from our parents.
The model minority, you know, that
Right,
idea
yes,
of
yes.
like being the perfect migrant. And it's
Yes.
like, this country doesn't belong to you either. It's not, you know, we're all guests here. We are on stolen land. It's not. And so I think that it's just very important that as humans we are evolving and we are not internalizing everything and just trying to keep up with everyone else. We should all be on individual journeys as well, because that's where the freedom lies, to be honest. But that's also the hardest part, because if you start to think for yourself.
What's your definition of freedom?
I think it's an individual inner freedom. I don't think it's an external thing. I think you can be in prison and be free. You know what I mean?
Yes. That's why I'm asking. Is you did mention freedom. You did mention feminism. You did mention white feminism. I want to know what that means a little bit more. And also, what I'm hearing here is you had the opportunities. As a journalist, you have an opportunity. You have a voice. But even though it was limited, your intent, what was your intent in trying to do whatever you tried to do at that time?
Depends on what it was. Like if it was just journalism, it was to do the job that I'm meant to do.
Yeah.
When it came to the creative self, like my creative voice, it was always to try to make sense of the world through my perspective.
Okay.
A lot of people think that novels are all autobiographical, you know, and that's just lazy. It's not. But to say that you're not in there somewhere is kind of also a lie, because it's coming through you. And so it's very unlikely that I'm going to write a story that I have no interest in.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be able to do it very well. Whereas if you give me some really good characters that I have connected to and I feel like they are running through me in some way, and I want to give them that space, they want to show me what's happening to them. That's how I see my fiction. And so for me, what my intention is to simply create stories that are, and I don't want to use the word inclusive, but like normalize our existence.
Okay.
So I don't want us to be token. So I did a TEDx talk many years ago.
Okay.
Well, not many. I was like before COVID. That's how I look at my life. Maybe I think it's before.
Yeah, they call it it's before COVID, after COVID.
I think
anyway.
so. I think it was. I think it was before. Anyway, I did this TEDx talk and it was at Macquarie University, and my topic was beyond the token minority. So I like using the word beyond because I'm always like forward looking. Like this is where we are, but where are we headed? What are we doing?
Yeah.
And the token minority to me is what I also call the incidental Muslim, which is where you have like somebody who is wedged into a story to tick the box. You know, it's like, and the problem what happens when you have such poor portrayals of Arabs as we have had for over a century, and Jack G. Shaheen wrote a whole book about this called Real Bad Arabs, REEL, Real Bad Arabs. He wrote this whole, it's a term essentially of like he studied every movie and showed you how poorly Arabs were portrayed.
Yes, yeah.
When that's all you have, the instinct is to overcorrect. And so what happens is you have really good Arabs. You have really bad ones or really good ones. There's no complexity there.
Yeah.
And the only people who can give that complexity, you know, in those characters are Arabs. But we're not given the space to make these stories. And it's getting harder and harder now, especially with what's happening in Palestine, because a lot of conglomerates and organizations that are running networks and all of that, they're very clearly biased against Arabs, Palestinians especially. They don't want any kind of Palestinian sympathy. And so it's going to be harder and harder for us to find places to tell our stories. And so it's going to be on us to create these spaces. It's going to be on us to be more independent voices, because we don't have a choice.
I think we're in the best place when it comes to the platforms for our voices.
For independence, but you don't have the same, it's still hard. It's still hard because what we don't have is the other budgets that these big companies have and the reach. But I do think they're being dismantled. I think this whole economy that we've been running in the entertainment world, it's being dismantled because, you have content creators who could make a living out of eating a sandwich, essentially. Like this is the world we're living in. Like I literally watch videos where people are tax writing off their holiday to Japan because they're showing you how they made like a 𝗙𝗵𝘁𝗵 hat or something. You know, it's just, it's like on the one hand, it's great, it's liberating. On the other hand, it's kind of horrifying because for so long we were stuck in this place where we couldn't get anything made. So now what do we do, you know?
No, the world is not a fair place.
A fair place?
No, it's
I
not.
know. It's
yeah,
not.
and also it's not a unbiased place. So that's the truth and the reality of it. And there's always going to be someone in power trying to use the power to stay in the power.
Yeah, but it's my job as a writer and as a creative to unapologetically give my characters and my worlds that existence that they're entitled to.
Yeah.
And so one of the things that I think people struggle with my writing or my work, and this is something I've picked up over time, it's not something I can clearly define.
Okay.
But there's a frustration because I don't allow them to feel sorry for us.
Okay.
You know what I mean? I'm not there to sort of cater to that Western gaze of like pity that they have for Arabs. And I'll like you as long as I can feel sorry for you. And I'm generalizing here. I mean, I'm married to a person who's not Arab. So this is not a thing about race. This is about a cultural perspective.
Yes, yeah.
And I feel that the more you stand up and unapologetically declare that you are as equal as everybody else or as worthy, that is very confronting for people who have grown up being told that you are less than them. It's something, it's very real. Like you look at me funny, but I'm telling you, it's real.
No. It's the reason why I have a smile in my head is in 70s and 80s, when you watch television, all you see is some countries or some nations being shown in a way only poverty or a little kid on the street, or, you know, that's the only images the Western world has seen.
Yeah.
And some people, after they traveled to those countries, realized how advanced things are.
But also that those people don't think of themselves as lowly as you think of them. That's the thing. They don't have this, oh, poor us, that the West doesn't like us. It's more that's a political machine that they're up against.
That's exactly why I'm, just saying, I'm aligning with what you said. No one, it's almost like people want to go and help someone who doesn't need to be helped.
Yeah, exactly right.
Okay.
No, you are in trouble. Lie down.
Yeah, it's kind of like someone went to, I think, India, and then they want to buy shoes or something to a lot of people there. And then that whole community said, no, we don't need it.
Yeah.
And they're like, what do you mean you don't need it? I said, no, this is our way of life. We don't use them.
Also, solutions come from us as well. They have to come from us.
Yeah. So it's kind of like understanding the culture, the meaning, and all those things. It's a different awareness, but trying to go and trying to say, I'm living the best life and everyone needs to live. My definition of best life is with, I think, the misalignment is.
But also, can Westerners be more self-reflective and look at their role in this, I guess, delay in their eyes of some countries to catch up with the rest of the world, right? So if they look at the Middle East, like an Arab world country, right, and they will say, well, they're not doing things the way we do that. It's like, well, look at all of the interference these countries have had from the West, you know, parceling off their land, taking their resources. You have not given these countries the ability to grow naturally or evolve because you keep interfering in their worlds. And then you're surprised when they fire back and get upset about it. That's essentially something that seems to not cross anyone's mind.
I don't think the majority are thinking that way, because the majority don't have any control in what's happening, especially what happened 1,000 years ago, 100 years ago, or 50 years ago. No one wants a war. No one really wants all this. But if we follow the money, as you said, who is funding, who is doing all these things, it would be less than 1% of the population.
It is, and it is like, even when I think about Palestine, when it first, after October 7, when everything started to happen, I was very clear. I said, this is not about religion. This is about wealth and power.
Exactly,
and it's about interests that the US have, especially in maintaining a stronghold in the Arab world. This is very self-evident. This is nothing that people, but does it stop the killing? It doesn't. So my bigger concern is, how quickly can we get to a place where people are aware and more reactionary and more active in saying this isn't right? And you are seeing the dismantling of existing ideas and institutions because people are waking up. They're realizing we are being constantly sold things. Like, if you get on social media now, everything is an ad, even when it's not. It's trying to tell you this is something you need. This is something you want, right? We're not free of it. It doesn't matter where you are.
It's no longer factual. It's all influential.
It is. And it's exhausting, actually. If you take one day off from social media, it will be very quiet.
Yeah,
you
absolutely.
will notice the difference. If you don't leave your house, if you just stayed in your house, you didn't go out and see any billboards, hear any radio, whatever, that would be the only ad-free way you could exist, honestly.
Yeah, I think there is one city in South America, no ads. The whole city.
Sounds amazing.
I don't know which city, I can't remember, but there is one city, a big city, more than 10, 15 million people, 0 ads.
I feel like, even when I watch, like, I do watch a bit of, like, you know, influencers, like the content creators. I find them fascinating. I really admire their courage and creativity. I wish I had the courage to do what they're doing, because at that age I was very timid and I was not like, hey, look at me, listen to me, I have something of value. Whereas these people are unapologetically taking their cameras out, going around the world, doing whatever they want. But they're still selling stuff. Here's a sandwich that you need to eat. And so, like, one of the people I watch, it's very fascinating to me. There's this guy, he goes to, like, I can't remember where it was, maybe it was Italy or Spain, and there was a sandwich that he had and he posted it and his video went viral. So he doesn't have millions, he's not even at 1 million followers yet, but his video got like 50 million views. The business, when he went back to visit them, they said, we had 1 shop and now we have 9. And the order that you had, because he added honey or something, and usually you don't have honey, he said, now people come in and show us your video and say, this is the sandwich we want. And I'm just like, that's just the worst idea. Like, I think it's great. I think it's great that this business has grown. But I would hate to be, I don't know why, it's something in me is like, I don't want to be that person who's like, I want this sandwich, please. Like, I want to get out of this mindset that I have to consume everything that I'm being shown. Like, I don't like it. That's me though. And I think it's almost impossible not to get swept up into it to an extent, because it's just everywhere. Here's something that you need, or you don't think you do, but you do, you need it, you have to try it. And whether or not it's going to make your life better, it might make it better for 5 minutes. Do you have the power then to go, this is an experience rather than the answer? It's just an experience.
It's a new generation who are brought up purely on social media. So before 2004 and 5, there is no platforms. There's only internet.
It's insane the amount of growth you are seeing on social media.
It will go 1 million times more with AI. That's the reality.
That's the reality. I think AI, you can spot it I think people are so like averse to it because it looks a bit, uncanny valley. It's just a bit strange.
It's changing. There's more things coming. But anyway, for this conversation, what I'm saying is, it's the generational change, because before year 2000 or 2004 and 5, there was no Facebook, there was no Instas, there's nothing. There's absolutely nothing. We're still typing
We had flip phones. We had flip phones.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
we need to also understand this new generation who is being brought up just on social media. Like when they want to express an emotion, they will express on their phone and the platform.
Yeah.
Whether it's political, non-political, food, non-food. There's some videos, some posts, there's nothing. You just think, what's there? There's nothing. But it's for, 10,000 people, it's something interesting. I don't know what it is, but it's a new generation. That's the way they're communicating, connecting, and it's a new experience for them. But the flip side to it is they haven't experienced what you just said before, to switch off everything and just listening or focusing on your own thoughts. I don't think that happened.
That is the best gift you can give to yourself, is occasionally having a day where you're not engaged with anything online.
Yeah.
And I don't want to sound like some old lady here who's just like, oh, when I was young and all, but we're hurting our nervous systems. We're hurting our bodies. We're hurting our minds by not giving ourselves permission to exist in a moment.
Yeah.
And this is a reminder for me before anyone, like, I am not criticizing people for being online. I have no desire to be someone who's like, no, we have to keep things backward.
Yeah.
We're evolving whether we like it or not.
Yes.
And I am so encouraged by the kids who are speaking out about Palestine, for example. Like, they are courageous and unapologetic. And they are so strong that TikTok got bought out to shut them down. This is the interesting thing you're seeing, that they have power.
Yeah.
So I encourage that. But I also encourage people to engage with the world in a very meaningful way, where it's not about a transaction. But it's about being there and honoring things,
Yeah. So there's so many positive things also happening, as you said, depending on what you see as good and bad. So I think early this year or last year, Amazon CEO wants to get married in Italy.
Yeah, I saw that.
Books everything, and the locals, rejected it, went to social media, had a campaign, and the next thing is he has to move his whole wedding. Basically, that's a power of people saying...
It's essential, yeah.
Exactly. So for me, I see different things. Depending on what we see, it's a great platform if we want to do something good.
Look,
it's
even Gaza, look at it.
Yeah.
We know about Gaza because of social media.
Exactly. So
mainstream media hasn't shown us that.
I think mainstream media is funded by big corporations, and big corporations' interests are in only making more money.
There's still a lot of tiptoeing around the reality, unfortunately, and it doesn't matter who speaks up and it doesn't matter who says, no, the reality is quite clear. We can see it and we're being told it. And we Palestinian journalists deserve credit for being good at their craft. They are not simply there and putting a camera on everything. They're giving you news. They're giving you perspectives. They are giving
I think as a common person, this is my view about what's happening. India, Pakistan, Israel, Palestine, Ukraine, Russia, and then there is other countries in Africa. South Korea, North Korea. It's an ongoing thing. It's an ongoing dispute which has started before we were born. And depending on the times, it keeps coming up. Depending on who is the leaders or what's been driven, we have a view or whatever it is. But we are so connected when it happens, especially if a family or we come from that background. And personally, I really don't know the full story. But one thing is, it seems like you're really passionate about, the voice is heard or justice to be shown. Where do you think this, were you passionate about this, like when you're in your journalism time, or is it something really came up recently?
No, I've always had a big justice bent. I'm very, very slanted towards fairness. And you said life isn't fair. And this is sort of, my husband has that perspective. He's like, I don't look at life as fair or not fair. It's just things happen to people and all
Yeah.
of that. But I think you can have more of a forensic examination of events and be completely fair in your analysis.
Yeah.
And so with Palestine, first of all, I am Palestinian. I've been there many times. I've experienced what it's like to be there as a visitor, not as someone who lives there, by the way. So I'm not pretending to know what it's like to be under that pressure constantly.
Yeah.
But there's absolutely a very clear-cut case of, theft
Yeah.
and invasion and colonialism doing its worst,
Yeah.
when it comes to Palestine. So this is I think, the natural outcome of the oppression is disaster, of chaos,
Yeah.
because it can't sustain itself.
Yes.
And as you said, we live in a world now where people are finding ways to show that, hey, this is what I'm going through. This is the result of something that happened, 70 years ago. It's still happening. And so you can't turn away and ignore it. And my intention in mentioning this isn't because I think Palestine is the only issue, but I think it's one of the most transformative issues of our time, without a doubt. It is changing the world. It's creating a new consciousness in people, because if we can watch a genocide live on social media in between food videos and, boxing videos and I don't know what, unboxing videos and all this nonsense, then where are we? Who are we as a people? There but for the grace of God go I, isn't that what people say? We're not, a lot of people say, oh, we're all Palestinian, and I never liked that, because we're not all Palestinian, but we are all human. And if it can happen to them, it can happen to anyone. And so even if a person's instinct isn't to care, they should, if it's self-preservation, that should still kickstart something in that person where they go, well, wait a second, I would hate it if that was happening to me.
Thank you for listening, Chat with Loki. Follow and subscribe for more wisdom from everyday heroes.